What is divinity? A question that Madame Herta left us with as she held audience with none other than the Aeon of Erudition, Nous. A supercomputer created with the purpose of solving the universe's mysteries that somehow rose to Aeonhood, and now doles out power to those it sees fit. And these people on the receiving end of said power are referred to as emanators. But what is an emanator and what makes them so special? A few days ago, I posted a poll asking the simple question, do you know what an emanator is? And many of you replied yes. And some of you replied, well, kinda. And that is completely understandable because many people think they know what emanators are, but judging by the comments I've been getting, I've been led to think otherwise. Which is also fine because they are not as simple as they let on. In this video, I will be explaining what emanators are and an easy way of classifying them and understanding how they work. So without further ado, this is emanators analyzed and explained. Okay, so first things first, simply put, many people get pathstriders and emanators confused. So let me put this simply. A pathstrider is your average path follower that is able to pull in power from a path, or take a tiny flicker of power from said path. An emanator, on the other hand, works in reverse. Instead of drawing power from the path, the Aeon themselves blesses said individual with a portion of the path's power. Also, the difference between a pathstrider and an emanator isn't as simple as A isn't as powerful as B. Though that may seem like the case. Because as long as the Aeon directly gave them power, the amount doesn't really matter. That person would still be considered an emanator, just an embarrassingly weak one. The powers Aeons give also isn't always combat strength, but we'll get to that later. Because you could also spin it, proposing if a pathstrider had an ability to draw in tons of power from an Aeon. That way, a pathstrider could easily be way more powerful than an emanator. So just saying if person A is an emanator and person B isn't, so that means person A is stronger than person B, that's not exactly how it works. But this is where it really gets complicated, because we also have people who receive a portion of power directly given by an Aeon, but it wasn't given to them. Let's say an Aeon gave power to their emanator and said emanator gave some of their power to another person, making this lucky individual an emanator of an emanator, or as I like to call them, pseudo-emanators. Which, besides being a pretty cool sounding name, is also relevant and something that we've already had contact with. Because this example I just gave was the 10 stone hearts of the IPC. Leave it to the IPC to break the delicate power balance by breaking the rules of pathstriders and emanators. All due to Diamond having the bright idea of splitting off his power to dole out to his subordinates, we now have the potential of a double emanator to exist. Like, imagine if Acheron got her hands on a cornerstone. Terrifying, right? But it doesn't end there, because the 10 stone hearts aren't the only ones. Because pseudo-emanators can receive power from Aeons they don't even follow the path of. Like Fushuan, who received the power of erudition through getting the omniscia. Now, even though Nous gave her the third eye, this does not make Fushuan an emanator of the erudition, because Nous gave the power to the third eye, then gave that third eye to Fushuan, making it indirect. Hypothetically, if Fushuan removed the omniscia, she would lose access to that power, just like someone with a cornerstone, well, not having the cornerstone with them. So Fushuan has the power of erudition implanted into her forehead, but she follows the hunt. Two different paths. See why I had to make a term for these people? They just break the rules. And no, this does not make them normal pathstriders, because drawing on power and being granted power are two very different things. So put simply, pathstriders take power, emanators are given power directly, and pseudo-emanators are given power indirectly. Good? Good. Okay, because we aren't done with emanators yet, because there are a ton of caveats to these guys. Because no two emanators are the same as much as people like to say they are. Emanators can receive a multitude of different abilities, and the Aeon has direct control over how much power an emanator gets, what type of power they get, or even if they want emanators in the first place. This much was already proven by my favorite emanator, Aha's noblesse worm. Goofy, I know, but let me explain. A fascinating little detail is that before giving it all of its power, Aha first gave it fathomless intelligence as a ploy for it to join the Genius Society, which is suspiciously Sparkle's goal as well. But what we learn from this is that Aha had more to give and specifically chose intelligence. Nothing more, nothing less. Then proceeded to share the entirety of its power, proving that Aha had complete control over the access its emanator had to power. And using this as a fact, we can deconstruct the type of power emanators have with relative certainty. For example, we can say with around 90% certainty that Herta is not going to be as powerful of an emanator as Acheron, because Nous is a logical, cold, and calculating computer that wouldn't give her more power than she requires to properly research a universal mystery, because that's his goal. Whereas IX simply couldn't care less about anything, so it doesn't bother hindering or restricting power from its emanator. So Acheron is free to use as much power as her body can handle, which is entirely different from what the Erudition's emanators such as Herta and Dr. Primitive are. So emanators have a wide range of power, which is supported by the fact that Aeons all view their emanators differently. Sticking to the example of Nous and IX, Nous seems to view their emanators as an extension of itself, since one is looking into the mysteries of evolution and the other one is researching Aeons. And IX probably isn't even aware of Acheron's existence, since it wouldn't matter anyway. And Aha views their emanators as a toy, of course. Lastly, we know for sure that emanators can be any and everything, from a heliobus to a worm to a tree, from the screen to the ring to the pen to the king.
Oh my god, bro.
You were thinking it too. Anyway, yes, Shuhu was a tree. The thing that killed Baihung was a tree. Granted, this tree was strong enough to revive an entire planet because the abundance is broken. But don't get me wrong, emanators still have free will and do not have to reinforce or support their path or even the Aeon behind it. Most emanators seem to mirror their Aeon like the Equilibrium followers who only influence things for the sake of balance and do not want to be known. Propagation, destruction, and preservation emanators also seem to follow their Aeon fervently. But, of course, Acheron is the outlier here because her goal is to destroy IX. As I guess you're now realizing, the term emanator is deceptively complicated and is far less simple than it appears. One more thing we can glean from what I've seen is that the emanator power only enhances abilities. It doesn't grant people new ones. For example, Acheron can slash because she's a swordswoman. Herta is even more intelligent because she was already a genius. And the noblesse worm could do absolutely nothing, because it was a worm. No matter what power you give a worm, it will still be a worm. So despite the fact that Aeons can grant access to certain types of power, like Aha granted fathomless intelligence, being an emanator is entirely useless if the granted power isn't usable by the wielder. So as a recap, an emanator is a being granted power directly from an Aeon, not someone who draws power themselves. It is a strange type of bond that can range from mutualistic to antagonistic, with the Aeon in complete control of the power the emanator has access to, which is good because that also impacts how effective the power is for the emanator, meaning that a caring Aeon must monitor how much power they are outputting and the type of power granted in proportion to how much their vessel can handle. Like I said, it is deceptively complicated, but that is emanators analyzed and explained. You know, I made this entire video and we still don't know a lot about these guys. As of today, we still are not sure if the Shanzhou's generals are truly emanators or not. The wiki calls them speculated emanators. Take that as you will. So even though I went in depth, there is still a lot we don't know. And if emanators are this complex, what are Aeons? How does this ascension to Aeonhood even work? What is divinity? What do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.